So thus far we have seen one of the vertices of this knowledge triangle, that is the Pramāṇa vertex. We have seen how the Vaisheshika tried to classify the various types of objects about which we can know something. Now let us turn our focus on the other vertex, which is the Pramāṇa vertex. What are all the various ways in which we can have knowledge about these various Pramayas? So as I had said in the beginning of the lesson, the Nyaya school focused more on the Pramāṇas. They did have something to say about the Pramayas also, but their focus, especially in the Navya period, was more on the Pramāṇas. What are the various ways in which we can have true cognition about the various Pramayas. So following their analysis, they came up with 4 such Pramāṇas. We will try to learn about them a little more detail in the next few slides, but just to give a quick summary, the 4 Pramāṇas or the 4 legitimate means by which we can have knowledge about the Pramayas according to the Nyaya, where firstly Pratyaksha, which is perception. This is one of the most commonly common means of acquiring knowledge. So you see, smell, hearing, etc. These are all the various perceptions that we have by which we have knowledge of the Pramayas. But not all knowledge is accessible via perception alone. Sometimes we infer that there is somebody outside because their footwear, you can see there is somebody inside the room, let us say, because their footwear is, you can see their footwear outside, you recognize this shoe or this sandal belongs to that person, so that person should be there inside this room. So you are not directly perceiving them, but you are inferring that the person is there. Similarly, if you get up in the morning and you find that the entire ground is wet, you infer that it rained last night. So this kinds of knowledge is called Anumana or inference. The third one, which is somewhat very unique to the Indian philosophical systems, is Upamana or comparison. By comparing something, the unknown entity with the known entity, knowledge can be acquired. And the last is Shabda, which is very important, the testimony of reliable people. So a lot of things which we know via this testimonial information. From very simple things like asking for directions. If you don't know, nowadays people all are seeing the maps, whatever is there in the mobile, but even today there are some of us who go and ask how to go to this place. You have never been there, so you ask the person how to go to this place. They say go like this, etc. This kind of, in this way also we have acquired knowledge. That means is called Shabda. So let us see a few details about each of these things, because they are important for the later part where we try to understand the framework in which new knowledge is created. Pratyaksha, we start off with Pratyaksha, which is the most easiest or primary means of acquiring knowledge, and it is obtaining of knowledge when the sense comes into contact with the corresponding object. So please note the distinction over here. I am not saying that the sense organ, the physical sense organ, that is the eye or the ears or the nose, comes into contact with the subject. It is the sense which must come into contact with the object. Many times what happens, especially when we get up early in the morning, we wake up from our bed and then just stare like this into the wall. Somebody, your mother or father, can come and ask, what are you staring at? Then you say nothing. It is because though your eyes are looking in that direction, your sense of sight has not come into contact with the corresponding object, let us say the wall in this case. So that is why it is important to note the difference. So it is the direct experience of the entities, some of the Pramayas, through the senses, like the sense of sight, the olfactory sense, the gustatory sense, etc., or the tactile sense. What kind of knowledge we have, that is called Pratyaksha or perceptive knowledge. So you can put your hand on a table like this and find out whether it is flat or not, whether it has any dents on it or not. This kind of knowledge also is called perceptual knowledge. The important thing to note over here is that even pleasure and pain, things like pleasure and pain, are objects of perceptual knowledge, because remember, according to the Nyaya Vaisheshika tradition, mind also, or manas, is a sense organ. It is an internal sense organ. So just like my sense of sight is able to perceive the external world, my manas will be able to perceive the inner world. So things like pleasure, pain, knowledge, all of these are perceived by the manas. So this is some brief, some more details about the pratyaksha pramana. But as I said, not all knowledge that we have can come from pratyaksha. We have to turn to inferential knowledge in many cases. So the knowledge which follows another cognition is called anumana. So in that word itself you can see anumana. So the anu is of course that which follows, and mana is the word for cognition. So a cognition which follows a previous cognition is called anumana, or anumiti it is called. So anumana is the means by which you get anumiti. So it is arrived at in a structured manner based on some sort of an invariable relationship between the object which is previously cognized. So you cannot simply infer from A, you cannot go to the inference B without there being any logical connection between that. So the Nyaya demands a very, very strong connection between the premise and the conclusion. So based on what you are coming to the conclusion, and the conclusion should be related by an invariable relation. This is called the Vyapti relation. The very, very standard example that is given is that on some hill you have seen smoke, therefore you can infer that there is some fire over there. So the relationship that is there between smoke and fire is an invariable relationship. So if there is a some place you see smoke, it must have fire. Notice that it is not the other way around. Wherever you see fire, the smoke need not be there. Like hopefully in your kitchen there is no smoke when the burner burns. But in case where you see smoke, there has to be some sort of a combustion going along over there. So this sort of an invariable relationship between what you perceive, that is the smoke, and what you infer, it is called Vyapti, and that based upon which you have inferred is called the Hetu. So these are the two important things. So first you have to perceive something, which is the Hetu. It must be invariably related to something. That invariable relation is called the Vyapti, and that which you infer is called the Sadhya. In this case, the Sadhya is the fire. Likewise, the other mundane example that I had given, you see some slippers which are kept outside a room. So that is the Hetu, that the slippers are kept over here. You are cognizing the directly cognizing the slippers. So that is the Hetu. You know that invariably there is nobody in this entire building or in this surroundings who has this kind of a chappal. It is only this person who has. So you have an invariable sort of invariable relationship between the chappal and the person. Chappals cannot walk on themselves, of course. This is not we need not mention this. So some person has to wear them and come, and you have always seen only that person wear this chappal. So you have a invariable relationship between the person and the slippers, and therefore you infer that the person is there inside this room. So that is your Sadhya. We will have a little more discussion about what are all the various components of this Anumana in the future section. So for now, it is suffice to know that Anumana is that kind of a knowledge which you get following some previous knowledge based on some invariable relationship between the two objects involved over there. The third Pramāṇa is Upamana. It is obtained, this is the kind of knowledge which is obtained on the account of comparison between something which is well known to something which you don't know. So comparison can be of three different types. You can compare the similarities. You can explain to somebody, or you can have knowledge of new thing based upon the similarity with the previously known thing. So for example, the traditional example given is that you don't know what a nilgai is, let us say. So I tell you that nilgai is like a deer. So if you go to the forests, you will find a very large deer-like or cow-like thing. In the classical text, it is written like a cow-like thing. So you find that is called as a nilgai or a gavaya. So you go to the forest and you find, this is the similar. I see this should be the animal that he must my friend was referring to earlier, because it looks like a cow. So the classical example was a gavaya is like a cow. So you go to the forest, you see an entity which is not really a cow but looks like a cow, therefore you say that it is a gavaya. So this is a knowledge that you gained via similarity. To give a more mundane example, if somebody has never seen baseball, let us say, you tell them that baseball is a sport which is like cricket, right? So when somebody goes to, let us say, US, they see some people holding one bat and hitting. So you'll see, hey, wait, this definitely you know that this is not cricket, but it is looking similar to cricket. So you say, yeah, this is baseball. So this is knowledge that you gain by observing the similarity. But all knowledge need not be gained only by observing similarity. You can gain knowledge by even telling the dissimilarity. So if somebody wants to know what is a spanner, let us say, you can tell them that a spanner is something which is different from a screwdriver, it is different from a wrench, etc. So you go to the workshop, you find something which is not any of these things. So based on the dissimilarity between the previously known things, you come to know that, yeah, this is what a spanner is. It can work in some other ways. You don't know what a wrench is, let us say. Your friend tells you that it will not look like a spanner, but it will have the property of being able to turn the thing like that. So you go to the workshop and you find something which has the ability to hook on, but it does not look like the spanner. So trying to know something by pointing out the dissimilarities with the previously known thing is also called Upamana. The third type of Upamana that we can give is we give a very unique feature which that only has and nothing else has. So a very standard example of this is you have never seen a giraffe in your life. So you say that, see, you go there, you will find an animal which has the longest neck you have ever seen in your life. So you go to the zoo, you will find there is only one such entity over there, which is a unique feature which it shares. Nobody else has that kind of a feature. So based on that, you know what a giraffe is. Similarly, you tell what is a zebra if you want to tell. One way you can say is that zebra looks like a horse or like a donkey, like that you can say, but that will not make that person immediately realize or know what a zebra is. But if you tell that you go over there, you will find an entity or an animal which has black and white stripes, that is the zebra. So that is a unique feature which only this has. So these are the various ways in which you can compare an entity with a previously known entity to know the unknown entity. So all this kind of knowledge which you acquire via this comparison or analogy is called Upamana. The last Pramāṇa is Shabda, which is very important. As I said, lot of knowledge that we have from who are our parents, what is the direction, etc. we know via Shabda Pramāṇa. I am fairly certain that when we were in school, a lot of knowledge that we got from our teachers, we got just by Shabda Pramāṇa. The teacher told us, so we believed that okay, this is 1 + 1 = 2. We did not ask for proof and all those things. We just accepted that 1 + 1 = 2, a plus b whole square is a square plus 2ab plus b square, etc. We just got via testimonial knowledge. It includes both the knowledge, the words of a authoritative source, like your teacher or your parent, etc. It also includes Shastra works, the authoritative works of a particular tradition. So if you go to the library, if you see some very standard encyclopedia or your standard reference manual, whatever your discipline has, that reference manual, if you say, it is assumed that it is composed by experts. So even the knowledge that you get from newspaper or that kind of a book is considered to be Shabda Pramāṇa. So many of us are sitting over here, there is some conflict or some earthquake, let us say, in some other part of the world, or there is some sports event going on in some other part of the world. So how we want to know who won or something like that, we find out from the newspaper or any other website that informs us. We are not seeing directly by perception. There is no way we can infer what has happened because we are not having any hetu. We are not comparing or any such thing also. So that kind of knowledge, who has won this game, etc., we get from Shabda, from the newspaper or website, etc. So in brief, these are the 4 Pramāṇas.